welcome back. It's your girl, Kiana Jackson. And today, I'm discussing episode 3, season 1, titled Go For Broke, from the show Atlanta. We all know it, we all love it. But, let's get into those details. On this podcast, you know we are never biased, so we will be getting into the nit, the grit, and the hot take on what's really going down in the show and what's the meaning of all of these things that we catch throughout the season. But let me start my podcast off like this. If you ever struggled with money, felt embarrassed about your financial situation, tried to impress somebody you couldn't afford to impress, or hitting what you were really going through, this episode probably is going to hit closer to home for you than anyone else. So let's break it down. This episode follows a young man named Ern as he tries to take out his baby mother, Vanessa, on a proper, reasonable date, despite nearly being broke. Meanwhile, the artist that he manages, aka his cousin, Paperboy, and his best friend Darius prepare for a dangerous deal with the Migos. Yes, girl, you heard it right. Special guest star, Amigos. I wonder how they even had the budget cut for that. Girl, your guess is as good as mine. So break it down like this. Throughout the whole episode, both storylines explore stress, trust, poverty, pride, survival, and relationship issues. Some things that we go through nowadays. Some things that everyone goes through. Either one of those topics or all of them. What I really liked about the episode, especially this episode 3, nothing felt exaggerated. Everything felt so realistic. I felt like I was there. I felt like, I wanted to cry because at that moment, I understood where his struggle was coming from. I understood her pain of not being able to go out on a proper date with somebody that she loved. I understood all of that throughout this whole episode. The trust, the poverty, the survival, the stress of not having financial means how you want to. There are no superheroes in this episode. No millionaires. Not one perfect couple or perfect people. Everyone is struggling with something and for something. So today, me and my co-host will be breaking down the episode, discussing major scenes connecting with the poem or article /essay, We Wear the Mask by Paul Dunbar, and Being Poor by John, the poet. We will also be discussing large questions about what the episode says about money, identity, pride, and trust.
And trust us. We got some opinions because Ern stressed me out this whole entire episode, girl.
You serious? Why?
We're gonna get into it. And I'm gonna break it down. I'll see why you stressed me out so bad. Watching this, I was fearing for my life. I was like, in some moments I was cringed out at Ern, but other moments I understood where he was coming from,
Yeah. Girl, let's start off with poverty versus appearance.
That's a good start right there.
So, I want to start off with the biggest theme of this episode. Okay? Poverty versus appearance. Co-host, you want to start us off first?
Of course I would do the honor. That has so much to say. Ern is broke. Girl, first of all, let's get into the kids menu scene. You wanted me to start off this section by myself because you know good and well how I felt about Ern doing that broke ass during the whole episode.
I know how you felt, sister. I felt the same way, but at the end of the day, I feel like a man gotta do what a man gotta do, and Ern proved that throughout the whole season. He did what he had to do. Yeah, I know you feel that way, but I wanted to talk about poverty and appearance because this was probably the strongest theme in the entire episode. Like you said, in the entire season, but for this episode right here, it really stuck out.
Explain that a little bit. Explain why you said that.
Well, from the beginning, we can see Ern is struggling financially. It's no big secret.
Girl, wait, and it's not just struggling. He is broke. Don't try to sugarcoat.
I'm not, but how I'm feeling, I feel like everyone goes through something people that don't go through anything feel like how you feel.
I know we ain't judging right now.
I'm not judging you. An opinion is an opinion. That's your opinion. He is broke. I get that. But at the same time, we gotta understand, why is he financially struggling? He has all these responsibilities. He has Lottie. He has the responsibility of paying Vanessa's rent to keep a roof over his family head. He has the responsibility of managing Alfred, his cousin, which he did take on, but he needed something else financially to support his family. And the only thing that he could think of is helping his cousins out with his career. I mean, he wanted to help his cousin succeed in life while also helping himself succeed in life too.
I see you on that one.
Exactly.
But one of the first things we see Ern doing was trying to buy a kid's meal at a fast food joint. And when a lady turned him down and told him that only children or paying customers with children can get the kids' meal, he just had a whole attitude and asked for a courtesy cup and didn't even get water. He got a Fanta.
And that didn't work out too well.
Not at all, girl. And then the employee had the nerve to tell him that he couldn't order because he was an adult. That must have hurt so bad.
That would have been the final nail in the coffin for me. I'm struggling like this, and but you telling me I can't get a kid's meal? Wow.
Honestly, the scene to me was funny, but to others was like, damn, relatable.
It was funny, but it was kind of sad too, like you said, because it is relatable. I can relate to it. I don't know if you could.
Okay, how so? Explain.
Okay, it shows how desperate Ern is to save money. He isn't just ordering a kid's meal because he wants one. He's ordering it because it's cheaper and it can save him some money for his daughter or himself. He can buy another meal with that same money that he was going to spend on an adult's meal. He could afford 2 kids' meal.
And girl, when he couldn't get that Keyz meal, he still took a cup with that old good old Fanta. Exactly. I can't lie, that probably made me laugh a little bit too hard.
Me too. But I really think about it. Like, it's another example of how helpful Ern was trying to be to stretch every dollar he had.
Yep, every little expense matters when you're broke.
Right. And something is in the water with this episode. It catches it really well. Like, when money is tight, you think about every purchase differently. Like, you see that 10-cent cup of noodles different than you see that 12-cent cup of noodles. You might go for the 10 cents because you know that 2-cent different could go towards something else. Wait, but then Ern does something to surprise me.
What? Taking up Vanessa to expensive restaurant? That shocked me too, because we all knew he didn't have it, but he loved this girl that much that he brought her to the expensive restaurant. At first he asked his friends. I think his name was Chris or something like that. He asked his friend, okay, where's a cheap place I could take up Vanessa? His friends say, oh, you roomed the spot on such and such. You know, they really thought it was the same price as back in the day, but the prices changed. They turned into a seafood lounge, got under new management, and Ern looked so scared. He feared for his life up in that chair. After that parking scene, I thought everything was down from there, like the whole date was gone from there. Ern trying to park in the dangerous spot ever. Just because it's $6, like a couple of dollars off from $10, where you could just park Zam's car at that parking for 10, but he was trying to stretch that dollar.
Exactly, because now Ern is trying to look successful while secretly struggling financially. I don't even think it's a secret at this point. And I know that's something a lot of people could relate to, right?
Yeah. Definitely, sometimes people feel pressure to look like they are doing better than they actually are.
Right, and they don't want people judging them.
Exactly. They smile, they dress nice, they go out, they act like everything is fine. But why I feel like behind closed doors and scenes, they are stressed beat out.
And that's exactly what Ern is going through in this whole entire breakdown of the whole episode, right? This leads me to our first discussion topic question. Is Ern a victim of poverty, or is he making decisions that keep him poor? Ooh, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Like, literally, I feel like he was just making decisions that kept him poor, but at the end of the day, at the end of the season, we seen that he actually was broke and poor financially because he had a family to provide for.
Yeah, but personally, I think it's a little bit of both.
How so?
Well, some of his problems are outside of his control. You know, like him being unemployed, struggling to find stability, trying to support his daughter. That was out of his control.
But at the same time, those are real life challenges. Everyone has to go through it. When you lay there and you have a child, you know the consequences. You have to be employed. You have to be stable. You have to be able to support that child.
I know that, but also there is the real life situations where people face obstacles while having kids. Some people don't have any choice but to have a kid because they don't believe in abortion, or they went through a struggle, or they just wanted a kid because they wanted a kid and didn't fully understand the responsibilities of having one. I feel like
absolutely, but at the same time, taking Vanessa to a restaurant he clearly couldn't afford wasn't a smart decision. He should have invested that money in his daughter or gave it to Vanessa for rent or something. I know he tried to show her that he still loves her and he can still provide and look successful like the other men that she's dating. But honestly, I would have did a smarter decision as far as like taking her out on a date. I would have never took her out to expensive restaurant. I would have just took her to a nice place that we both could enjoy. He really didn't make a smart decision on that turn, and I'm sticking with my answer.
So what you're saying basically is poverty created the situation, but pride made it worse?
Exactly. Instead of being honest about where he was financially, Ern tried to maintain this image because he was probably zealous of what he seen Vanessa was going out with, and he wanted to be the person that she depended on, while he was also dating other women. Fishy
Indeed. I do not agree with that. Like, what was their deal?
We still figuring out if they were an open relationship or not, or like was it just the financial struggles that was pushing them towards other people for financial means or get up. I'm still not understanding that.
Growing that image cost him the money that he didn't even have.
Which is why I think the episode wants us to consider how difficult it can be to separate financial struggles from personal choices. Which leads us to our next question. How much does society judge people based on money and appearance?
Okay, so basically, to break it down, I feel like society does it all the time.
I have to agree with you. People make assumptions based on clothes, cars, neighborhoods, jobs, all of that, all the time.
And I feel like that's exactly why Ern's feel pressure, so much pressure throughout the whole season, not just this episode, but really the most in this episode right here. Because he wanted to provide for his girl, but he couldn't even provide for himself.
Girl, I feel like that's only because he doesn't want Vanessa to see how bad things really are for him. Especially after leaving college and really not having anything to do with himself.
Right? I also feel like he was worried so much about how others would view him if people knew the truth.
But honestly, a lot of people feel that same way.
They do, but society often treats financial success as like a measure of personal wealth or worth, even though those two things aren't the same.
I gotta agree with you there. Just because someone is struggling financially doesn't mean they are lazy or incapable.
Exactly. Sometimes people are working hard and still face obstacles they cannot see. Some of us can't tell the future. And if we could, baby, life would be a whole lot better. And that's another reason why this episode felt so realistic to us.
Now you want to be down with the so realistic. What happened to he is broke. Like, if you was giving off that rich girl vibe that couldn't understand poor people.
I know, but now that I'm sitting up here breaking it down with you, I'm understanding a little bit more that financially struggling doesn't mean that you have to stop your lives. You gotta keep going and face those obstacles with pride. And it also reminds us that appearances don't always tell the full story. Ern looks like he's holding things together. He barely holding it together.
Yeah, but underneath the surface, he's carrying a lot of more stress than anyone realizes. And I feel like that's what makes this episode hit so hard for you. But if we're being honest, the best example of all of this happened during that restaurant scene.
It really did. I gotta agree with you. One thing that really irritated me in that episode was the restaurant scene. It heated me out.
Why? Girl, when she ordered that lobster meal, I almost passed out for Ern. I knew that lobster meal was going to be a leg, a butt, a thigh, a hip, everything. And I felt like she knew he was struggling because that's your baby father. How dare you, order the most expensive thing on the menu? I feel like that was her get back because he was dating other women. And she wanted to show him, okay, what other men provide for her on dates and this, that, and the third. She didn't have to order no lobster filet mignon meal, but she did. She seen how uncomfortable Ern was. She knew what the deal was with Ern. He didn't have it like that. But she still proceeded to buy the most expensive off the menu. I just didn't get her.
Which brings us to our next question. Was Vanessa wrong for ordering that expensive meal if she didn't know Ern was struggling financially?
I felt like she knew. Like I said, I felt like she knew. And she wanted to do what Vanessa wanted to do.
I don't know. I see a lot of people take an attack in Vanessa in this episode, but I think I don't know. Do you think she was wrong for real?
Yes. What did I just say just now a couple of minutes ago? I think she was completely wrong. She knew what her baby father could afford and could not afford. She knew this. She just wanted to feel that high life moment again.
I don't know. I don't think she was wrong. Not completely, at least.
Why not?
Because Ern never told her she couldn't afford it or he couldn't afford it. If she wasn't looking at his bank account or nothing like that, she wasn't standing there when he checked his balance or nothing like that. You know, she didn't really know how much he had. And in all fairness, Ern did have that job at the airport as a third party selling whatever he was selling on the side with his friend.
That's a good point, but if you know your baby father is out here doing everything he can to hustle up change so he can pay half the rent, so he can just at least sleep in a bed with you, you should know where his bank account lie at. You should know what he could and could not afford.
I'm not arguing with you, Dad. You're not wrong. You're not wrong, because if I was his baby mama, baby, I would have known about that check balance. I would have seen that check balance. Before you even took me out on a date, I would have asked you, okay, can you afford a date? Because I already know you gotta pay me half rent when you can make it up just to sleep in the same bed as me and not even touch me.
Okay, but if somebody asks me out to dinner, I'm assuming they could afford the restaurant they chose.
I agree with it, but at the same time, if I see somebody ordering tap water, girl, come on, hey, tap water, not even ice cold water. Be real, and the cheapest meal on the menu, while I'm ordering lobster steak and the expensive drinks, I might have to stop and ask a few questions.
That's fair. But I still think most of the responsibility falls on Ern because he wasn't honest.
So what you're saying is Vanessa wasn't innocent, but she wasn't a victim either?
Exactly. So moving on, the deeper issue isn't really the lobster, right? The deeper issue was the fact that Ern never tells anybody what's really happening or what's really going on with him. And we can all agree with that.
Alright, so let's make some reading connections, right? Our first read we had was We Wear the Mask by Paul Dunbar.
And this moment literally immediately reminded me of Paul. I felt like it connected for real because this whole entire episode, whole entire season, Ern has worn one mask. Well, many masks if we want to count the episode when he met Janet at the VIP lounge and he was faking like he was somebody else.
I agree with that, but you need to rely deeper onto the subject. What you mean?
Well, nobody sees how scared he is. Nobody sees how broke he is. Nobody sees how embarrassed he is. They only see what he let them see. And with that being said, that's what I think Dunbar was really talking about when he wrote We Wear the Mask.
Absolutely. That's exactly a strong connection to what we read versus the episode.
Okay, so that brings us to our next discussion question.
Oh my God, spit it out for the dudes.
Okay, does Ern wear a mask throughout the episode? And what happens when that mask slips? We all seen what happened when the mask slips. I gotta give it to Ern. Even when that mask slips, he remains calm, he remains capable, and he remains in control. Even when he's struggling financially and emotionally, he keeps it all together for the sake of his family. And I feel like he does this throughout the whole series, especially in the episodes centered around him. He hides his insecurities like a dog hiding behind an alleyway looking for food. He hides his insecurities behind sarcasm, intelligence, and detachment.
I gotta disagree with you right there. Yeah, he hides behind a mask, but when that mask slips, I feel like the audience see his vulnerability. They see his frustration, his anxiety, his depression, his desperation. And from there, everything becomes visible. It reveals how difficult his circumstances really are.
So all in all, we can say about this mask that he wears, it's emotional and social. And it also shows the gap between how he wants everyone to see him versus what he's actually experiencing.
Alright, Paris to No Connection time. I has had moments where I smiled and acted like everything was fine and okay. But really, I was dealing with stress privately. And I couldn't even function right in front of society to even wear my mask fully, so it always slipped a little bit. And I feel like that's where this poem comes in at from Paul. It helped us understand Ern's character a little bit more better.
Which brings us to our next question. Is your hiding struggles from loved ones protecting them or harming the relationship?
See, that's where it gets tricky. Alright, let me go first. This question really made me think. When people hide their struggles, are they protecting the people they love? Or are they actually hurting the relationship? I feel like, because we all have an opinion to our opinions. I think they're hurting it.
Really? How so? Come on, elaborate, sister.
Okay, so Ern thought hiding his financial problems would protect Vanessa from stress. Instead, it created more problems for them in their relationship, as we can see in the restaurant scene. After the restaurant, it was a big debacle about dreams and how you can achieve them and if they were achievable.
I saw that when he had the discussion about Ern being the music manager for Alfred. It kind of off-put Vanessa a little bit, like, okay, he's playing, he doesn't have a real job. But at the same time, that counts as a job to some of us.
Especially if you can pay good money to do what you do.
Now, I'm not saying Ern loves being a music manager and loves being in the music industry, but it's something that he grasped on when he was at his lowest, especially coming home from college. I know it's hard to find a job, especially even if it's a fast food job, a little small job, picking up trash. It's hard. It's just hard to make the hours. And after you make the hours and the wages, what do you even really have left? Because some people want more hours than you. And you can't tell a business owner of another establishment, okay, I want more hours than you. You're not going to get it. So I feel like him going to find his own hustle was the smartest move he can ever make for his daughter, because he met someone like Darius. And Darius actually gave him long-term options for financial support. So basically, when you hide things from people, they don't get a chance to support you at all.
That's true. We gotta agree with that one.
And Vanessa wasn't upset with Ernst because he was broke. Let's get it right. Vanessa was upset because she felt disconnected from him. She felt like she didn't even matter to him. But in a relationship like that, all the parties feel that way, not just one. So it's good to have communication and talk it out.
And I felt like that connected perfectly to We Wear the Mask.
Exactly. Ern kept wearing a mask and pretending everything was okay when it really wasn't.
But eventually the truth came out anyways. Wait, and it came out through an argument instead of an honest conversation like you say it.
Right. Alright, can we be honest?
Of course, we're always honest and unfiltered on this podcast. Go ahead. Don't keep nothing to yourself.
Honestly, in episode 3, Go for Broke, both Ern and Vanessa contribute to the problem in their relationship. You want to know how? I'm not trying to step on the toes. I'm not trying to say nothing.
Girl, talk, because we're all here for it.
Alright, people often point the finger at one person. But if we are being fair, they both carrying emotional wounds that affects how they treat each other and their daughter.
Alright, so let's start with Vanessa dismissing Ernst's dream. Like you said previously, talk about that a little bit more, what you meant by that.
Right, so Ern, he started trying to build a career as Paperboy's manager. It might not be stable, but it's something he's passionate about. Because he's getting his name somewhere. He's getting his status somewhere by being Paperboy's manager. And might I add, he gets a great cut from Paperboy being his cousin. And actually knowing what Ern is going through. A lot of people know what Ern going through, especially his parents. But some people don't want to support him because they feel like he's lazy. Honestly, that's what we're looking at. He's lazy. But as the season progresses, we see that he's not lazy. He's trying everything that he can to make a way for his daughter and to keep the roof over their heads. Meanwhile, Vanessa often looks at it through a different lens of practicality. Like, is it practical? Is it a practical, stable income? Which nobody can blame her because, Ern is kind of a little iffy. But she has to understand, he doesn't have much options on the table like she does. He doesn't know wealthy people like she does. And the people that he do know either don't want to support him, don't want to help him, or they just want to use him. Alfred is the only one that showed any type of emotion and concern for Ern because he really loves his cousin, and we can all feel it. I'm not saying nothing against Vanessa. Again, she is raising Lottie, working, and she's worrying about all the bills. Even when Ern can't pay that half her rent. And because of that stress, I feel like sometimes she come across as dismissive of Ern's ambition instead of encouraging him.
Okay, but at the same time, come on now. Vanessa has reasons to be frustrated that we're not about to just sit up there and say, okay, she doesn't see Ern and this, that, and the third. No, she has a reason to be frustrated. Like you're saying, she's worried about all the bills, she's working, and she's raising their daughter full time. Ern sees his daughter, but really and truly, we always see Vanessa with the daughter.
Absolutely. And Ern has a history of struggling financially, and it's not always following through. Sometimes he can't follow through on some of the promises that he make, which leads me to why even make it. But from Vanessa's point of view, she needs security. She needs everything but promises. And that's what he's giving her. He's just giving her empty promises.
The problem is that instead of expressing her feels of vulnerability, she sometimes minimizes his goals, and that creates resentment. I don't care who you are, that creates resentment in any relationship, especially when you have children together.
Okay, now let's flip it. Earn dismissed Vanessa's dream too. What you gotta say about that? Alright, during the episode, Vanessa is excited about the possibilities of dating someone successful and stable. Even though she doesn't end up pursuing that relationship, it represents something that she wants, a better future. But she has to realize, you're not gonna get a better future if you keep tossing down your partner, you keep lowering their ambition, you keep playing on their ego. That's why I feel like they opened the relationship up. Vanessa up here dating successful, stable men and this, that, and the third. We call them successful and stable, but do they really respect her? No. Ern is the only one that respects her. And he's not successful. He's not the most successful man. He's successful in life, but he's not the most successful financially, and he's not the most stable financially. But at least he cares and respects her enough to even try to help her out, even though he's struggling himself. He doesn't have to help. Some men don't even help when they have kids with women. But for him to put everything aside and only take $200 out of $2,000 and give the rest to Vaughn, that was everything. That showed her where her self-worth lies. I feel like that showed her a part of how she should be treated instead of the fancy dates and the fancy vacations.
He's honestly realistic witty. Yeah, Ern gets jealous, but he's also dating other women too. And he gets defensive when he sees Vanessa probably with a successful man and this, that, and the third. But instead of trying to oppose her of her desires and her wants and needs, he agrees with it. He understands why she needs the opportunities and why the opportunities appeal to her so easily.
So what you're saying is, instead of listening, he judges. No, not at all. I feel like he understands her more than she understands him at the end of the day.
Alright.
Right.
I feel like Ern wants Vanessa to believe in him, but he struggles to support what she wants when it's threatened his place in her life. That unfair double standard, but he wants patience, he wants understanding, yet he does not always extend the same grace to her. I feel like...
Which brings us back to the bigger issue, the communication. They rarely say what they actually feel. Vanessa doesn't directly communicate how exhausted and disappointed she is. Meanwhile, Ern doesn't openly admit how insecure he feels either. Instead, they rely on sarcasm, defensiveness, and passive-aggressive comments towards each other, which isn't cool. And it's not a nice environment for their daughter. I also feel like this creates misunderstandings between the two too.
Exactly. They spend more time reacting to each other's behavior than explaining their own emotion.
Neither one of them is really hearing the other's plan.
Okay, so let's talk about those emotional wounds, Mal.
What emotional wounds? That's the heart of episode 3. The emotional wounds. It's right there, clear as day. Ern carries wounds from failure to insecurity. He's struggling to prove himself. Every setback reminds him that he isn't where he wants to be in life. That's why he becomes so defensive when Vanessa questions his plans, because he wants bad to have a plan.
And what about Vanessa's wounds?
Vanessa, she's carrying the burden of responsibility. Yes, she's trying to prove her stability for her and her daughter Lottie. Yes, she loves Ern, but she's tired of the uncertainty, as we all would be. Because she's been disappointed before, and she protects herself emotionally. Probably too strong of a protection, if you ask me. Instead of just expressing her vulnerability, she often puts up all these walls that we definitely can see is visible.
So what you're saying is neither of them are really the villain? What you saying?
Exactly. The episode Go for Broke shows two people who still care about each other deeply, but they are wounded by past disappointments. Earn wants gratification, while Vanessa wants security. It's two different things. Neither needs is wrong, but they don't communicate honestly. End up colliding instead of connecting. And I feel like that's what makes this episode so powerful.
Go for Broke isn't really about who's right and who's wrong. It's about how unhealed emotional wounds, jealousy, fear, and poverty conversations and communications, poor communication, can keep two people from giving each other what they really desperately need is love and support.
So it leads us to our next question. Should people follow their dreams even when those dreams seem so unrealistic? Let's talk about dreams.
Okay, Earn wants to succeed in music. Vanessa wants to open her own fashion boutique.
I feel like they should.
And why is there? Explain to the people. Actually explain to the people.
Because most successful people were told their dreams was unrealistic at some point. Come on now. I'm successful. I was told my dreams was pointless of being a makeup influencer. I'm top in the beauty industry. And I influence thousands of people on a daily basis to buy beauty products or consider the self-worth. I love making people feel like they're worth it and they're not realistic. I love helping people achieve their dreams. That's why I'm in the career that I'm in.
So just for 1 second, imagine this. Imagine if every entrepreneur quits because somebody called them unrealistic.
Does that exactly mean people shouldn't have a backup plan?
No. You're right about that. We all should have a backup plan. But I think Vanessa was wrong for dismissing Earn's dream, and Earn was wrong for dismissing hers.
I agree. They both were speaking from frustration rather than understanding each other. Okay, now it's time for Catch That Hot Seat with Keyz Diamond. Catch that hot take. Oh, let's get it. Okay, so I believe my take is that pride causes more problems than poverty. Hear me out.
I'm listening.
If Earn would have simply been honest from the beginning, half these problems would have disappeared by now. So that brings us to our next question. What is more dangerous in this episode, poverty or pride?
I feel like I'm gonna choose pride.
Really?
Yeah.
Because your pride is big, child.
Not so much, friend, but I'm gonna defend my answer. Poverty is difficult, but people can work through poverty. Pride is the reason why Earn couldn't be on for real.
Now that's a strong argument, but I feel like poverty really played with Earn's pride. Because at the end of the day, he had to do some stuff that he did not like at all. And he had to do some things that he just didn't agree with, but for the sake of getting him out of poverty, he did it. Pride also made him continue to date when he knew good and well it would become a financial disaster for him. Pride also made him pretend like everything was okay, and he knew good and well living in that storage room was not okay. So maybe poverty created the problem and pride simply made it worse.
I can definitely agree with that word. Pride did make it worse. So maybe the answer is both. Pride
and poverty. Now let's do another Reading Connect. This is Reading Connection number 2, Being Poor by John. You remember that second reading from class, right? And I cannot pronounce his last name.
Just spell it out for us so we can know who you're talking about.
Alright, Scalzi. Now I feel like the second reading really hit the nose on what this episode is really about and really connected the episode with being poor. I feel like that connection is almost too perfect just off the title.
Right? Go for broke. Being poor is basically the same thing.
Seriously. Okay, so one thing John talks about is how poor people know exactly how much everything costs. Like, literally, I don't give up what you say. They will know how much everything costs before they even go in a store. I mean, that's how my mom was. Before she went in a store, she made a list. And along with that list, she put down price marks to make sure she was still in budget.
That's literally earned the whole episode. The parking costs, the drinks, the food, everything about this scene, about this episode. He was stressed to the last cent.
And if you ever had financial struggles, you know exactly how that feels. And every penny matters. That's why this episode was so authentic, because it hit home for a lot of us. So, which brings us to our next topic. While Ern is worried about money, Alfred is dealing with a completely different kind of pressure. Let's get into it.
Alright, can we talk about that terrifying scene with Amigos?
I was stressed for Alfred and Darius. Now, baby, that was a completely different type of stress that they have to go through.
Exactly. Ern worried about his dinner date deal, while Alfred worried about surviving for real a deal. That scene had me nervous. Even though I knew it was fake, it felt real.
And when they started to question Alfred about getting out of jail so quickly, I immediately knew something was wrong. I'm like, okay, yeah, they think he snitched. And you know, street culture runs on trust.
Yep, it does. And if you break that trust with street culture just might bite you.
It's like once somebody questions your loyalty, things can get dangerous. And then Ern calls, Lord have mercy, to put the cherry on top of the worst cake in history. At the worst possible time, Mouth Almighty talks way too much. The Migos want him on speakerphone at this point because they knew he was going to shout out some valuable information, and plus they already didn't trust Alfred. Right, you know, it's discussion question time. All right. Can trust ever fully return once people suspect you're working with the police?
Ooh, child, you might as well lose their respect and keep it lost, because no one will respect you or trust you ever again if they feel like you are and then are related to a police officer. Dare not want to trust you.
Especially in the world Alfred lives in, right? Street culture is built on loyalty and reputation. And once somebody starts questioning your loyalty, everything changes.
Looking at everything together, this episode revolves around a few major themes. First theme is poverty. Every character is affected by money. Pride is the breakdown. Ern's refusal to be honest creates many problems for him and his pride. Trust. The Migos storyline revolves entirely around truth, because they are having a hard time trusting Alfred, not Darius so much, but it's all Alfred. In family, Ern wants to become a better father for Lottie by providing her with a more stable lifestyle and affording her basic need. Dreams, another good topic, another good theme. Both Ern and Vanessa are chasing goals that the other doubts, but it's still their goals and their dreams. Overall, what you think about Go For Bro?
For real, overall, it's one of the most relatable episodes of Atlanta because it focused on ordinary struggles that are very real to this day for everyone. You can either go through all the struggles or just one or two. The struggles do not have a name at all. The episode also connects strongly to We Wear the Mask because Ern hides his true feelings. Now, he hides his true feelings throughout the episode, throughout the season, and his financial struggles from people around him. Except for his parents, they know everything. It also connects strongly to being poor, because it perfectly illustrates the stress of calculating every dollar and constantly worried about financial struggles. If I had to predict what's going to come for next season, I think Earn will continue to work with Paperboy. And I'll be happy to see Vanessa working with Paperboy too. That'll be a stretch, but that'll be something to see. The team duo actually working together and having good communication to support an artist and make a more stable lifestyle for their family. I want to see it. I want to see it so bad.
I think this episode asks us a question that a lot of people don't like answering, which is, how much of our lives are we spending to trying to look okay instead of being actually okay?
Thank you all for listening to today's discussion. My name is Kiana Jackson. My co-host, Keyz Diamond. And that's all our hot takes.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time as we continue our journey through Atlanta Season 2. Will there be a Season 2? Until then, stay safe, stay honest, and remember, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let people know when you are not okay. See you on next episode.